Racism, what it is not, and why it doesn't exist. Racism, reparations for slavery. Compare the standard of living of the average American Negro with that of the average West African black. The truth is that they benefit from the advanced civilization created for them almost exclusively by white Europeans. If anyone should pay anyone anything, they should be forced to pay us for putting up with their chicanery and all the problems that cause a culture that could do far better without them. Street crime, welfare, public housing, higher taxes, and worst of all, the endless whining and bellyaching, constant demandingness represented so exemplary a fashion by their latest demands to erase American history as a whole because they do not want to be reminded that their ancestors were slaves. American blacks just can't seem to get past this need to get something for free at somebody else's expense. Seen from Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing, Mookie just doesn't get Sal's lamenting his scorched pizzeria, not because of the money that he won't be deprived of. You know the deal, Sal, you get over on the insurance, Mookie tells him, but because he just lost something that he built with his own hands. Is this the result of Sambo mentality? Are blacks just naturally lazy and that they're incapable of understanding that a man can take personal pride in something he built with his own hands and devote his professional life to nurturing it and trying to make it even better, regardless of the money? I mean, provided, of course, that he's making enough to survive with. The ones who complain about racism and oppression are trying to hide the fact that they're just too damn lazy to get up off their asses and figure out how to do something of value with their lives. Possibly the problem is that they lack the imagination and the perseverance to do something to achieve something for themselves. Somebody has got to tell them that they have caused all their own problems in this society. We have been lying to them for decades to avoid hurting their feelings. But ultimately, what hurts them more, their feeling or the misery of the life of their life conditions. We got to start ignoring their feelings and start telling them the truth about their subculture and how to create a better future for themselves, or they never will. A further extension of the white man's burden. Jason Riley, please stop helping us. How liberals make it harder for blacks to succeed. Why racism will never cede. Why racism will never cease. White complicity, black complicity, no solution. Crime of white society is that it told blacks they were inferior. Crime of black society is that they believed it. Racism and race prejudice throughout history. Sharif's Robbers Cave. Why blacks think their situation is any different. Getting real about race, or how retards talk about race. There's no such thing as a racist because there's no such thing as a non-racist. In other words, everybody is a racist, whether they're willing to admit it, either to others or to themselves, or not. Racism will never go away because it is hardwired into our biology. That doesn't mean that acting upon racism, that racial behavior can't be ended. That was demonstrated beyond question experimentally by social psychologist Muzaffar Sharif in the famous series of studies known as the Robbers Cave experiments. One lesson the Robbers Cave has taught us is that people who use the term racist literally do not understand the meaning of the term they are using. The main lesson was that humans are hardwired to be ethnocentric, meaning that they will inevitably over-evaluate in-groups, in other words, their own racial or ethnic, and undervalue and under-evaluate out-groups. Anyone who does not know that the correct, accurate scientific term, ethnocentrism, are demonstrating that they have absolute zero knowledge about or understanding of the subject. Instead, they use propaganda marketing pseudo-terminology that includes false, fake expressions such as racism and racist. These terms were designed specifically to convince the world that the users are victims and that the people they accuse are bad people. The Robbers Cave experiments. One lesson of the Robbers Cave has taught us that people who use the term racist literally do not understand the meaning of the term they are using. There is no such thing as racism because racism is a confused and erroneous conception. Racism or racist are artificial terms created specifically for marketing and PR purposes, and so various subgroups in this country can justify their personal failures by claiming victimhood. A meditation on darkness. Blacks today, in America and throughout the world, repress resentment toward white European society for what they perceive as its superiority. It's irrelevant whether or not blacks are inferior to whites. At their deepest, darkest subconscious depths, they believe they are inferior. They cannot escape from the fact that they were made slaves by whites, while whites were never made slaves by anybody. The psychocultural damage of a heritage of slavery is permanent. This is the black predicament today. It's not their fault, but they will never believe it, that it is not their fault. This is one reason why multiculturalism will never succeed. Thus, darkness descends. There's no such thing as a racist because there's no such thing as a non-racist. In other words, everybody's a racist whether they're willing to admit it, either to others or to themselves or not. Racism will never go away because it is hardwired into our biology. This was demonstrated beyond question experimentally by social psychologist Muzaffar Sharif and his associate researchers, his wife, in the famous series of studies in the 1950s now known as the Robbers Cave experiments. The time for race realism has come, if only to save the races from killing each other. Negroes are not ready yet to be involved in influencing national policy at this time in their history. They have to work out their deep-seated and serious racial, ethnic, and group self-esteem issues first. I mean, honestly, to be honest about it. Pim Fortuyn, Dutch anti-Muslimism immigration politician, anti-Islam, anti-immigration, says Islam is a backward country. Islam is a backward culture. He was assassinated. Philip Rushton, David Suzuki debate of 1989. More about that later. Grease monkeys. So if a black guy is a mechanic, you can't call him a grease monkey because it would be racist? Western civilization consumes other inferior civilization. Non-Western civilization is slowly disappearing, not just being absorbed by the West, but offering itself up in a sort of world historical religious conversion. They all want McDonald's hamburgers. Political correctness and remarks in postmortem societies. Political correctness is about narcissistic vulnerability. It's about loss of God nihilism, which has furthered a hedonism that has de-evolved into the first step toward outright Eloism, the beginning of humanity's evolution of the Eloi. Dialogue from Jungle Fever, a movie by Spike Lee. So where are we going? Are we going to be together? We're together now. I don't know. You don't know. No one knows. Is that the way it is? That's the way it is. What about children? No, no, no. That's not going to happen. What if we work it out? No, no, no. That's not going to happen. No children, no babies. No, 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 no. Because I got to be married to have children, or have you already forgotten that I already am married with a child? No, 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 no. Half black, half white babies for me, no. Aren't your family mulattoes? Their skin is lighter than mine. No octoroon, quadroon mulatto babies, no. Don't you have a daughter who's got white blood in her? Yeah, so what? Look, at least in my eyes, Drew and Ming are black. They look black. They're black, so to me, they're black. And it's hard enough just being black out here. A lot of time mixed up kids come out all mixed up. A lot of time mixed kids come out all mixed up. A bunch of mixed nuts. You know, you're not much different from my family. Well, your family is racist. What is this stuff you're talking now? That's from Jungle Fever. Dialogue from film Blood Diamond, Edward Zwick, 2006. My grandfather told me stories of war. How the Mendi fought the Temni, as how two tribes were fighting. Somebody has stole a woman. I understand white people want our diamonds, yes? But how could my own people do this to each other? I know good people who say there is something wrong with us inside our black skin. That we were better off when the white man ruled. But I know that my son is good. When he grows up and peace comes, this place will be a paradise. I'm not going to read that Dark of the Sun because I've already read it. The ABC model of attitudes. Affective or emotional component, A. Behavioral component, B. Cognitive component, C. Attitudes are a learned tendency to evaluate things in a certain way. For example, spiders. The affective part of the attitude towards spiders is, I am afraid of spiders. The behavioral component is, I will avoid spiders and scream when I see one. The cognitive component is knowledge or belief about spiders, such as, I believe spiders are dangerous and will avoid them. There is nothing prejudicial or discriminatory about cognitive conclusions when they are based on statistics or masses of personal experience. The establishmentarian narratives about what really happened in Charlottesville are lies. The only thing reported openly and honestly is the total bullshit narrative about Charlottesville, the conclusion as to cause of death. New video evidence showing that Heather Heyer was not hit by any car or by bodies flying after being hit by a car. What about James Alec Fields? What James Alec Fields did was completely legal according to Virginia state law and the laws of the majority of other states. The following is a video of Black Lives Matter protesters attempting to block streets, roads, highways, and even interstate freeways, and being run over by motorists who were attempting to run away from them, or should we say drive away from them, in panic, fearing for their physical safety. None of the drivers were arrested or charged with any crime because they were perfectly within their rights since the laws of most states back them up. Blocking traffic is a crime defined by most states as unlawful restraint. The law in the state of Virginia states, if one is in a car and has reasonable fear of grave bodily harm, lethal force may be justified and there is no duty to retreat. The fact that James Alec Fields did what he did on Saturday and before anyone has all the facts, not just the media but the entire nation seems to have predefined the event as murder or homicide or domestic terrorism, makes an important statement about American people as a whole. What is the statement? That the American people are addicted to violence, they live on and love violence, that violence is pleasurable to the American people, and violence is fun for them, provided, of course, that they are not the victims. It also demonstrates the ability of Americans to self-deceive and self-delude. The bullshit narrative that Fields deliberately rammed his car into the crowd in an attempt to harm or kill is being blasted all over the place because it is more fun for people than any alternative interpretation. The alternative narrative that he was attempting to drive away in panic from people who are hurling projectiles at his car to break the windows, to break in and get at him, is completely ignored. And so far, the Charlottesville police agree. They have yet to charge him with anything other than felony leaving the scene of an accident. There are video where you can see people actually banging on the windows of his car with baseball bats to try to break them so they could get at the guy. And this is an update a year and a half later. And James was convicted, but by the feds. The case was dropped by the state of Virginia, as far as I know. Mankind's intellectual, artistic, scientific, philosophical output by society. Greece and Rome, medieval Germany, Renaissance Florence, Renaissance Rome, Renaissance Venice, pre-revolutionary Paris, modern Germany, Weimar Germany. Medieval Germany, we have castles and thank you for listening.